This is the fun one. Talk about it. There's the better way out. Let's talk about challengers. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is stars Zendaya. Also stars sorry, give me a second here. Stars Zendaya, stars Josh O'Connor as Patrick Zwig, and also stars Mike Feist. I want to say that.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name either.
Yeah, he's from West Side Story. All right, so it's about Patrick and Art, who are best friends from childhood. They played tennis together. They worked their way up the tennis rankings, and while in Stanford, they meet Tashi, played by Zendaya, who rocks their world. Both of them fall in love with her, and the love triangle begins. A lot of sex, a lot of making out, a see-through bra. This movie's an interesting one. Let's just say that Art and Tashi ultimately get married. Art has become a professional tennis player, while Tashi has suffered a severe knee injury that took her out because she was going to be basically the next Serena Williams. So now she's kind of living her career through her husband Art, but he is getting tired of the tour. He's tired of the fact that he hasn't won the big one yet, and that doesn't quite sit well with Tashi. And then there's best friend Patrick, who she had a relationship at one time, who is back in their lives, creating havoc within this marriage. It is a love triangle. It is it's a despicable love triangle. Dante, what did you think of Challengers?
Oh man, there's just so much going through my head right now about this movie because I'm watching it, and the only the resounding thing, the thing that carried through the whole film was that, number one, Zendaya's character was a horrible person. She was a horrible person, but also the way they sold this movie, the way they pitched this movie, really was a little deceitful in a way of it's there's a love triangle and that whole thing, but there was more chemistry between the two guys than with Zendaya and any of the guys in the movie.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of how it's almost like maybe that's the underlying theme, was that these two guys were meant to be together and she got in the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even she said she didn't want to be a homewrecker, right? Meaning with their friendship. And then there's a point in the film where the guys go years without talking to each other because she chose one of them, right? So there's this whole underlying thing of, these two guys should have been together and not her and, the other dude. It was just a weird movie for me, man. Like in every sort of way, like even the way it ended, which I'm not going to get into because it's spoilers, but for those who do want to see this, tripe. But I just feel like it was pitched as one movie and what we got was just something really stupid.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the feeling I got coming out of this movie. I was torn between liking this movie and really hating this movie. And I began wrestling for a day or two about, would I ever recommend this movie? And I think ultimately I came to know I can't, but I'll describe it this way. At the end, the ending, the way it ended, I thought was fascinating. I thought it was intriguing. It really,
I hated the way that ended, man.
Well, I'm talking about the very last moment, but getting to that point, it felt very dirty. Getting to that moment. Yeah. There's just tone that kind of carries itself throughout the entire film, and one of it is homoerotic. Every time you saw Patrick and Art in a deep conversation, it felt very homoerotic.
Yes.
And I would tell you, the way it was shot is that the two faces are so close to each other, they could almost be kissing. In fact, there is a moment where they are kissing, and during the menage a trois scene. And,
I'm going to get into that scene.
Yeah. So two things here. I'll tell you what I appreciate about this movie. as an improviser, as a guy who does improv a lot, there's a game we play called Timeline, where we take an event, and in the movie here, the event is the tennis match between Art and Patrick. The one that's the tennis match that's going to launch either careers into the next level. That's the event, and then they play with time. They go back 5, 6, 8 years. They go back 3 years. They go back a couple hours. They go back and forth in time, and in each scene, they kind of reveal the nature about that. I kind of appreciated that kind of storytelling. I thought it was done well.
It was done well. It was done
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah, playing with time. This is a great movie to kind of study that how to do it. The other thing is this movie is all about status. In improv, you can't have two characters with the same status. Otherwise, you have a boring scene. You have to have one who's dominant and one who's not dominant. Can't think of the other term right now. But it's about who has higher status, who has lower status, and in each scene, you take all three characters and you're constantly shifting them in terms of in Tashi has more dominance over Patrick. But by the end of the scene, that switches. The same thing with Art and Patrick, and vice versa. And so every scene is about just shifting status between the characters, and I found that fascinating. But again, getting to that point and getting through it, it was just like, again, it was. I'll call it homoerotic. I also call it the fact that all of these characters are unlikable. All these characters are despicable. And sometimes it's just hard to watch a movie where you have characters that you just dislike and then have to sit through 2 hours of it.
Yeah.
And that was my problem.
Nobody to like root for in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, if you had and so part of me was like, I really appreciate the structure and the storytelling. But at the same time, I just hate these characters. And we could talk about the ending. There's an ending. There's foreshadowing always in movies. There's foreshadowing with the tennis ball on the racket. Dante, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I knew I knew they were going to return to that foreshadowing, that plot device, but it took them 10 minutes to do it. And I'm like waiting for it to happen, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and it finally happened. And so this is just this whole movie to me is just a mixed bag of bad storytelling, hidden under a great story structure and a great plot device. And ultimately, as much as I appreciated the movie, I can't recommend the movie.
Yeah, look, I mean, I did appreciate the structure for sure. I thought it was very well done, better than most films I've seen that have tried to do that. The problem for me is just like by the end of it, man, I walked away feeling like angry. I saw this movie in a way, like I felt like I could have watched this on streaming. I could have watched this at home, like and been doing other things while it played in the background. Like I don't know, like there was just something that for me didn't resonate, and and it's not because it was like gay coded, because let's be honest, it was very gay coded. It wasn't because of that, because I've seen plenty of movies that have gay folks in it, and they're good movies, they're great movies, but this was just so. It was so non-committal for me, man. Right? Like I said, there was more chemistry with the guys than was Zendaya, right? And it felt like they went out of their way for her not to be a part of the sexual part of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even though the trailers promoted it like, see, and that's the thing. The trailer promoted it like, oh, there's going to be this huge, sex scene between Zendaya and two guys, right? Like that's all anyone ever talked about when they talked about this movie Challengers, right? By the way, that scene never happens. It never happened. They don't have a threesome together. I mean, not really. They kiss. That's it. And then she leaves. Right? Like they don't actually do the thing, right? So look, if you're going to promote this movie like this, then you better just commit, man. The thing that that bugs me, honestly, is like we saw so much male ass and genitals, right, in this film, but yeah, the lead character who's supposed to be the seductress of these two guys, no, she's clothed through the whole film, right?
Well, see-through bra. Let's just say.
Well, let's be real here. She was clothed. And I'm like, where's the commitment, man? What happened to the Kate Winslets of the world who would go there, right? Like Sydney Sweeney, look, Euphoria with Zendaya, right? Sydney Sweeney's the only actress in that show about sex that ever gets naked. She's the only one out of a whole crew of actresses, right? But guarantee you, you watch Euphoria, you're going to see a bunch of man ass, a bunch of, you know,
Ding dongs, yeah.
a bunch of ding dongs, a bunch, you're going to see everything from men, but you're not. But Sydney Sweeney's the only chick in the series that commits, right? And that was my problem with this film too, was the fact that look, if Zendaya's going to have this movie where there's this mature subject matter, right? Then commit to it, man. Like go there. Don't just keep don't try to keep playing the Disney princess in a film about threesomes.
I got to show you this. We're going to look at Rotten Tomatoes for Challengers. Rotten Tomatoes Challengers is 90% certified fresh.
By who?
By let's see, 183 reviews. So that means if I do my math right, there are about 36 reviews or 36 reviews roughly that were bad out of the 180. 150 critics like this movie. With its trio of outstanding performers volleying their star power back and forth without ever dropping the ball, Challengers is a kinetic, sexy romp. Let me see. The juxtaposition of sequences throughout the Reznor and Ross score absolutely blew my doors off. The acting here was quite good. Quite good, mate. And I like the narrative theming being purposeful, disjointed, excellent. This guy's all over the place. Okay, what did you think of the score, by the way? Trent Reznor and.
So it doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have a feeling like a lot of people within, especially the LGBT community, is going to love this film for obvious reasons. Because like you said, it's very homoerotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, look, man, we've all learned at this point that critic scores for Rotten Tomatoes don't mean anything anymore. I mean, like even when my reviews would show up on Rotten Tomatoes, I got to the point where I'm like, I don't care, because like it's almost irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Like I'm not going to be the lone voice among all these shills who, who are like, giving these movies great reviews, because it's something in it for them. I just don't trust the reviews. I don't trust that review. I know. So look, there are some people who are going to genuinely like it. I'm not saying that they're not, because like you said, there are things about the movie to like.
Mm-hmm.
It is well done. It is a well done movie. It's just not intriguing enough.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, because after seeing the movie, and then I went to Rotten Tomatoes, and it was at 89% when I saw it. I'm like, sometimes I just feel like critics are. This just feels like a virtue signal to me from critics that you have to like this movie because of its subject matter, because of the LGBT themes behind it. And I don't know what it is, but for some reason, critics really like dark movies. This is a very dark movie full of despicable people, and for some reason, we have to like that. And it's not that you couldn't make a movie like this, but it's all about the storytelling and how well you are at it. And I just felt like, it was just the despicable ooze was just heaped on so much that I don't know. I just couldn't get into it, and I couldn't.
Well, you have a movie
appreciate the art of it.
You have a movie where Zendaya is playing the other woman to this male couple, right? Because that's basically what she was. She was the other woman, and she's the one who broke up this happy home, right?
Yeah.
I look. I'm not going to get into all the agenda stuff, but we all know that for Hollywood, like a story about two men in love is a big deal, and so those scores are not surprising at all, because that's what this movie was. That's what this movie was. It was a movie about two men in love.
Yep. All right. So final verdict.
Absolutely not. Do not watch this movie.
Yeah, I know. I was so torn, and ultimately it's I can't recommend it. I'd love, look, I can't recommend it, but if you see it, I'd love to talk to you about it. That's kind of how my feeling is about this. You know, that's why I kind of glad you.
Or at least wait till it comes on streaming and watch it there, because you got like an hour or two to kill. But
Yeah.
don't watch it in the theater.